Hello. For those of you that are unaware, with update 2.0 for water tanks, everybody got a free tech tree. And if you create a brand new account, you actually get 2 tech trees you can have. And this has then caused lots of people to then come to me either in my Twitch streams or in the YouTube comments about what tech trees they should get. Now, I've already done a 3-hour video on which tech trees you should grind, but with update 2.0, there has been a lot of changes. Some of the stuff has changed, but majority of what is in that video is relevant still. But this video is purely going to be from the perspective of which tech trees I would actually choose if I was a brand new player or have very little tech trees unlocked, which also then takes into consideration if the line is good, because there's not really much point of getting a tech tree if the line to actually grind it is pretty good, because you might as well just grind it and then skip one that's not so good. Although there are still tech trees that I don't think anybody should get. So to start things out with, we are going to be talking about the German tech tree, and this is going to be a lot more fast-paced comparison to the 3-hour video that I've done. I'm not going to be discussing the line in detail. I'm going to be simply telling you, is the tier 10 good and is the line okay? And then from there, you can hopefully work out for yourselves whether or not you should skip it or just flat out go and grind it. And of course, naturally, we're not going to be speaking about the artillery tech trees. Starting out with the Jpz E100, tier 10, amazing. One of the most fun tanks you can possibly play at tier 10. You have big boom boom alpha, and the rest of the line is also fantastic to grind. In my opinion, I don't think that you should skip this vehicle, just grind it, and I think that you'll be a lot happier grinding it as well. The Jagdpanzer is an assault TD though, so that is something you need to consider, because this is not a tank that you sit at the back of the map with. Yes, you could do the Stug, the Panzer IV, and the Jagdpanther, but the Ferdinand onwards, you really shouldn't be sniping with this. However, if you do want a sniper TD, then the Grille might be for you. Although the Grille at tier 10 is definitely not the most amazing tank. The gun is infuriating. It will randomly miss even when you're fully aimed, and it will randomly hit when you're not fully aimed. The rest of the line is okay to grind. It's not amazing. The Strv can be a bit of a sticking point for some people, but the Borsig and the WT Panzer IV, I'm just going to say it now, even with the tier 11 in this line, this is the best tank in the line. So you could technically get the Grille and only play the WT. This does obviously have a tier 11 in the line as well, so you could go and get a Grille and then grind towards it, but be warned that when you do go and get tier 10, you're going to have to grind the tier 11 before you can grind the field mods, unless you had already unlocked the tier 10 prior to 2.0. The Panzer 7, another very, very good tier 10. The line is okay as well. We've recently got buffs on the VK4502A and the VKB. I'm not sure about the rest of the line. Even before, this is very, very good. The Panzer 7 itself is really, really nice blend of, it has armor, but you also have weak spots that you need to learn and then work out how to hide them as well. It has one of the best guns at tier 10, and just in general is a very, very good tank. The Mouse. The Mouse might actually be a tech tree that you want to skip, but not because it's inherently bad. This is one, because there is a tier 11, and the tier 11 is actually quite fun, but also because of the fact that the VK at tier 8, if you are a new player or a returning player, the VK can get a lot of your blocking missions done for your campaigns. You also then end up skipping the Mauschen at tier 9, which, even after the buffs, I still don't rate this tank very highly. The E100, do not skip this line. Do not choose the E100 as your free tier 10 to get, because the entire line will teach you so much about super heavies and heavy tanks in general. Everything from the tier 5 onwards will help you learn about the game, and you need to go up and grind these tanks to truly learn about them. So no, don't skip the E100, please. For the E100 itself, you do actually have a choice of 2 different guns. One is a more DPM focused and competitive sort of gun. The other one is more casual and higher alpha. Both of the guns are more than usable. I personally like the 750 alpha damage gun for just randoms and just messing around. I find it a bit more fun, but yeah, it's down to you. Don't skip this line. It's really nice. The E50M. This also recently got a buff for whatever reason. I thought that this tank was already pretty good, but yeah, the E50M got a buff. The E50 got a buff as well, which is mental considering this is like the best tier 9 medium in the game. The Panther 2, the Panther, the VK32M are good, but they're not excellent. The Panther 2, probably you may struggle with a little bit, but I really, really loved all of these tanks when I was playing them. So yeah, the E50M, good tank. The line is okay, apart from the E50. Once you get the E50, you basically have the tier 10. Moving on to the Leo 1, and this thing is beautiful, but it has a ridiculously high skill cap. If you're brand new to the game, I don't recommend you go and get a Leo 1, because you will not do very well in it. It has one of the best guns, if not the best gun in the game, but it has absolutely no armor at all. And if you do get spotted out in the open, you are going to die. The rest of the line is not fantastic, if I'm honest. The VK at tier 7 is nice, and the Indian Panzer is okay, but the Leo PTA is not... It's not really the Leo 1. It's not like the E50 where it then forms into the E50M. This is a little bit more of a, my gun is significantly worse than the tier 10. So I don't recommend this for new players, but the tier 10 is very, very good. The Rhm Pzw is very good, but it's also not a light tank and not a medium tank. You can scout when the time comes, but it's not really going to be the most effective out of the light tanks. You pray that you meet another light tank so you can kill it. You don't pray that you can outspot a light tank. And that is usually how this tank works, and this line works in general. You just simply out-combat capacity the enemy light tank, and then you can go and do whatever you want. So it is incredibly fun, but I don't think that it's for new players. Although, again, this does have a tier 11. So moving on to the Soviet tech tree, and we start out with a 268 V4. It's still okay. It's not as good as it used to be many, many years ago, but it is still very, very good. The line is okay. The one thing that you really need to watch out for, though, is that this has no gun depression on this entire line. So if you are someone that enjoys gun depression, then yeah, this isn't for you. Also, these are assault TDs. These are not sniping TDs. You should not be at the back of the map. You should be playing this more like a heavy tank. Tank is good. The line is good-ish. There are still the SU-101, and to be honest with you, the SU-M1, 101, and the 263 all have engine fire issues and fuel tank issues, etc. That you need to watch out for. But on the whole, they're okay to play, and yeah, they do have some troll armor. The 268, this is very good. But the thing is, you shouldn't go ahead and skip this line because it is a very, very good line to grind. This is a versatile tank destroyer. This isn't a pure sniper. This isn't a pure heavy either. You can go around and do whatever you want. This has 395 heat rounds for the premium, and I believe like 303 AP? Oh, I was correct. But it's a lovely progression from the line in general, and all of these tanks make sense in the line, so I would grind this line. Definitely don't skip it. 277, fantastic vehicle. Do not skip the 277 or the IS-7, although maybe the IS-7, maybe. But that's only to then go ahead and get the tier 11. If you're a new player, do not skip this. Both of these lines, whichever one you end up going down, and let's be honest, it's more towards the IS-7 than anything else now because of the tier 11. Even if I prefer the 277, I'm still going to say you should go and get an IS-7 because this has a tier 11 after it. But this entire line in general will teach you everything you need to know about heavy tanks, not in the same way that the E100 does, because it's slightly different. These are more of your versatile heavy tanks than anything else. They're not your super heavy tanks like the E100. These tank lines, whichever one you go down, either 277 or IS-7, will teach you about that. They play a bit differently, they are a bit more mobile, and they can get around the map a lot more. So I wouldn't skip either of these. I would make sure you grind them. Obviously, if you're a returning player and you want a very, very good line, and you haven't got the IS-7, then sure, go ahead and get the IS-7 because it will go and lead on to the KR1, which is a good tier 11. The 705A, the tier 10 is fantastic. The tier 9 is also really, really nice. I've always enjoyed playing this tank. The ISM is okay. It's nothing exceptional, but it's nothing bad either. And of course, you are playing the line that is the IS-7 up until the tier 8, which it splits off from. Well, it splits off from the tier 7 to the tier 8 is what I'm saying. I wouldn't personally skip this. I think there are better tanks that you could pick if you wanted a better tank, but it is a good vehicle. The IS-4. Now, this is one of the best heavy tanks for anyone to play with. This also got a buff recently, which gave it a little bit more mobility, I believe. Yeah, so it got more mobility and also gave it 10 more shells, which is a godsend because this thing always ran out of shells. So this is now really, really good. And honestly, the rest of the line is really, really good as well. This is another tech tree that you can grind down. If you don't want to go down the E100, this is actually a good alternative. It still plays in the same kind of play style where it's a bit slower than say like the IS-7 or 277 lines, but they do have lots of armor, teach you how to side scrape, etc. This can be a really, really nice line to grind. I wouldn't skip it. The ST2, this is fine. It's not exceptional, but it's not bad either. The line itself is okay. The IS-22 can be a bit of a problem for some. I have had people complain about it after I said that it was okay. I didn't find any issues with it. Honestly, I thought the gun was fine. And yes, it might not have the best armor in the world, but it has some armor at some points. And then the IS-32, again, this is really, really competitive tier 9, in my opinion. A really, really nice gun. It does lack the pen slightly if we use the top gun here. 292 for the premium round, which is APCR. And then you have only 243 for the standard pen, which is a little bit lacking. But then the SD2, again, neither good, neither bad. It's just a okay tank. 430U. Do not skip this. Do not skip the 430U line. This is a good line to go down if you're brand new to the game, as well as the Object 140. The Object 140 got buffed, and I do now feel like it's okay to go towards it and get it. So either of these lines, if you're a new player, these are fantastic. It's like the IS-7 and 277. Doesn't really matter which one you pick, as long as you go down that and grind it. Because because they teach you so much about the game and medium tanks play in general, all the way from the tier 5 of T34, T4485, T43, 44, 430, which then moves into more of the brawling style of a medium tank. But then if you want to continue the normal medium tanks, you then go with the T54 and the 140. Obviously, the 430U does have a tier 11, which you can then go to as well, so keep that in mind. But I wouldn't skip either of these. I'd make sure you go and grind these. For the K91, this is a bit of a weird vehicle because this only has 320 alpha, whereas the 140 now has 340 alpha. And with 320 alpha, it's a problem. This has been a problem for a while now. The 140 getting buffed to 340 is a lot nicer, but it's still quite low on the grand scheme of things at tier 10. And with the amount of track health in the game, 320 alpha is really, really lacking. You can no longer just permatrack someone. If you could permatrack someone, the 140 and the K91 would be fantastic vehicles. Like through the roof fantastic. But you can't. The rest of the line also received a buff, and I'm going to leave all the buffs in the description so you can look through them for yourselves. 416 is a really good vehicle. It's basically a K91 at tier 8. The 430 version 2 is a little bit weird because it doesn't really fit into this line as much as the, K91 and 416. And the same with the A44 in a way. So it is a little bit of a weird mismatch of a lineup, but some people would love this tank, some people hate this tank. That is as simple as you can put it. I don't think that it's worth skipping because there's no point skipping this line and then realizing you hate it. The T100 LT, do not skip this line. Please grind it because it will teach you so much about light tanks. Tier 10 is fantastic. The rest of the line is fantastic. That's all you need to know. For the USA, we have the E3. Do not skip this line. This is amazing. E3 at tier 10 is one of the biggest bullies that you can meet. And the same goes for the T95 and the T28. These three tanks are amazing. The rest of the line doesn't really fit in. Like, let's be honest, the T25 AT then suddenly jumps up and has a T28 and it's massive armor everywhere. But it's okay because these are all grindable and this is good to grind. The E4, this is also a very good vehicle, and the T30, again, fantastic vehicle. I don't think that you should be skipping either of these. The E4 and the E3, these are both very good lines to grind. The E5, now this line again, is just amazing. The E5 at tier 10 is one of the most competitive. Even though it has a cupola, and you can hit the cupola, the thing is, the more that you are experienced at the game, the better you're going to do in the E5. Because you learn about gun blocking and wiggling and angling your armor, etc., that it becomes really nice to play. You have the firepower, you have the armor that can be penned, but also, if you know what you're doing, is incredibly hard to pen. It's a perfect mix of everything, and it's just a fantastic vehicle. And the rest of this line is also fantastic. You should go and grind this because it is lovely. Oh yeah, also you get one of the best tier 11s in the game. The M5Y. This is a bit of a weird one because I don't really feel like it's that good of a vehicle. Okay, actually, that's maybe miswording this because I don't feel like this is that fun of a vehicle. It has a gimmicky track mechanic which you can't really be perma-tracked unless they hit you at the rear of the vehicle, but you don't have any hull armor, you're very weak when you're out in the open, and you have to be hull down. It's a little bit of that kind of, yeah, it's great when it's hull down, but anywhere else it's kind of useless. So tier 10, okay. Rest of the line, meh. T57 Heavy. This thing got buffed, didn't it? They gave it more engine power and more shells. It's amazing. For the rest of the line, I really didn't enjoy the T69 or the E1. However, they have been buffed since then. So maybe these are okay to play, but honestly, I'd be inclined to actually use my skip on the T57 Heavy because this tank is amazing. The M48 Patton, don't skip this. Play this line, grind it, is a good line. All of this from the tier 5 onwards, no issues. You shouldn't have any issues playing this. The Patton is actually really good now that it's got a dispersion buff. This has some of the best dispersion in the game, and the tier 11 is very good. For the Sheridan, this is a bit of a weird vehicle because it's kind of like the Rhm, where it's more of a combat capacity tank, and you do have a choice of 2 guns at the tier 10, and also the T49 as well, but you have more of the combat focus one, and then you have the derp kind of gun where you can then go around, find light tanks, 76 pen with 910 alpha damage. But you also then have 220 pen on the premium round, which is heat for 700, so you can be a little bit of a nuisance as well to other vehicles, but I feel like if you want to be competitive, use this. If you want to go and like troll around, have some fun, use the derp gun. So the Sheridan is okay, but I don't think that it's one of the best vehicles in the game, and there are better tanks. than this. I would rather play an IHM. So this line is okay, but not great. We now move on to the French tech tree with the Foch B, and I 100% didn't realize that I had it paused from the French to the Chinese until I then went to edit it. The Foch B is a very, very good vehicle, and it is one of the most brutal ambushing tanks in the game. You can very, very quickly eradicate someone from the game with a single clip. And the tech tree also follows this. The lower tiers can be a bit problematic, but once you get to the tier 8 onwards, you basically have a Foch B. It just has less shells. So I wouldn't skip this, especially considering that by the time that you get to tier 8, you will basically understand if you like this tank or not, and then you can quickly not grind it anymore if you don't. The M48 for me personally is a very, very comfy tank, but for others, they don't enjoy it because it doesn't have armor. The line doesn't start really until tier 8 as well, which can be a problem, so you might want to skip this because, well, the 5100 and the 5120 are absolutely fine to play, but for the rest of the line, you're not really playing it until the tier 8. The AMX M454, this received a buff to the small gun. This now has better premium pen and also better dispersion as well as aim time. When you're using the smaller gun on this vehicle, it is quite nice. The tier 9 did receive a slight nerf to top speed, but it's still pretty good and honestly still a good tank that leads on to the better tank, which is the M454. The MX65T on the other hand did not receive any buffs, and it probably should have. So real stinker at tier 8, but the tier 9 and the tier 10 are very good. The rest of the line is kind of met. The ARL isn't great, but you'll get through it, and the M445 is the same kind of story. It's not too bad, but it's not an outstanding vehicle. So you might want to skip this purely because the AMX65T is not fun, and also this thing's stock is not very fun. For the BatChat 25T, this is a very, very good vehicle. However, this might be one that you want to skip, or at least you might want to skip the 13105. The reason being is that the BatChat comes down off of the BatChat 12T at tier 8, and that is a light tank. You are playing light tanks all the way up until tier 9, which then goes on to the BatChat 25T AP. So if you were to skip either of these, you would basically get a tier 8 to then go on to whichever other line you want. I would not bother really grinding the 13105 if you were going to get a BatChat, however, because the BatChat is, well, better. Even though this is a medium tank, the BatChat still can outspot loads of light tanks. The only thing it obviously doesn't have is the camo on the move. Not to mention, this also follows on to a tier 11, and whether or not you're going to get the tier 11, it is the option there. So I think that, yep, maybe skip the BatChat, or maybe skip the 13105, up to you which one you choose, but just know that you are able to then go from the tier 8 to a different line. For the EBR 105, do not play this if you're a new player. If you're brand new to the game, and you think, let's go and skip 2 tech trees, don't skip the EBR, okay? This line is not for you. However, if you are experienced, 100% skip this. This is such an easy tank to say, yes, go ahead and skip, because it is basically the best light tank in the game, at least for active scouting. And the problem with the EBR is that the rest of the line isn't very good in comparison to what you get at the EBR 105. You don't really have the view range until the tier 10, and you're just kind of a bit lacking up until that point. So if you're experienced, 100% this might be one that you want to skip and then just get the best light tank in the game, then start grinding field mods, etc. But if you're new, definitely ignore this entirely until you get some experience. It's not like the grind is unreasonable, it's just that the tanks are not as good until you get to the tier 10. And now for the best tech tree in the game, which is the British, of course. The FV4005. This has the highest alpha damage of any tank in the game. 1750 alpha damage with the Hesh, which has 230 pen. This is the premium round, and it does cost you 8,000 credits a round. So if you miss a few, you're going to feel it. However, in the bond store, there is the FV215B 183, and if you're a returning player, you would have received 15,000 bonds, which you could go ahead and get one of them, which then frees up this extra line that you can then pick instead of just picking an FV, because the rest of the line isn't really corresponding to the tier 10. Like, if you pick an FV, you probably want it because of the FV, not really because of the line leading to it. And for that reason, you could go ahead and just buy the tank for bonds in the bond store. For the Badger, this is an assault TD. It's very, very good. The Tortoise did receive a nerf, both to its hit points and also to the cupola. This is what the tank looked like before 2.0 patch, and as you can see, there is only a small percentage where you can actually hit and pen reliably. The rest of it is a little bit hit or miss, and you'll probably miss and then bounce. But with the 2.0 update, this is now just 175 basically everywhere. Although in the patch notes, that wasn't there. For the rest of the line, this is okay. It's a lovely general progression up through the tanks until you get to the Badger, and I think that you should probably grind them and not skip them. You also obviously go ahead and get a tier 11 as well, which is just an upgraded Badger. The Super Conqueror. This tank is still very, very good at tier 10, even after the nerfs. It isn't as good as it used to be, but it is good enough. The rest of the line is okay, apart from the fact that, yes, still the Churchills exist and the Black Prince exists. I believe these did get buffed in 2.0, but I don't think you're going to change it that much to suddenly make them well worth playing. So if you do want a Super Conqueror, then yeah, skip it, go ahead and get it, because you'll have 3 tanks that you can play as well. It's not just the S-Conq. The Kranvagn, Conqueror, and S-Conq are all very, very nice to play. But yeah, I would skip it just to not play the Churchills, if I'm honest. The Canopener. You could skip this because the Canopener is literally better than the tier 11. They could switch these two around and you probably would just say, yeah, that's normal. The rest of the line is okay, but it's nothing exceptional. The Canopener at tier 10 is one of the most broken tanks in the game, and I'm very, very surprised it didn't get nerfed in 2.0. I still think eventually this will get nerfed, but if you can pick a free skip, then maybe this is worthwhile. It's OP at the moment, and you'll be able to grind credits towards the tier 11 to get that. So potentially a chance to skip this. Centurion AX 10, do not skip this. This entire line is fantastic and it is new player friendly. The Centurion AX 10 at tier 10 is one of the most competitive tier 10 mediums, and the tier 9 onwards all the way down are good. So I would grind this out, don't bother skipping it. The Concept 5, this did get buffed and it is now more like a British Leo than anything else. You have higher alpha damage than the Leo. This has 460, the Leo has 420. Honestly, besides the mobility issues, I think this is okay. Should you skip it? Potentially, because the rest of the line is still not great. The tier 9 is good because the gun is good, and this entire line has the issue of the gun is good, but then that's basically it. It doesn't really have loads of camo, it doesn't have the mobility, it has the gun, and that is it. So maybe skip this, but I do think that your skip would be better used on other tanks, or at least more competitive vehicles. The Manticore. Now this is the best light tank for passive scouting in the game, apart from the Jpz E100. The rest of the line is not great to play, and if you are experienced with light tanks, and this isn't your first line, then there is potential to skip this because, yeah, you do get the best passive light tank at tier 10. The gun is actually good. It got buffed to have now 30 shells instead of the 20 that it originally had. I don't think that for newer players, you should look at this at all. Ignore this entirely. For returning players that know about light tanks, then yeah, consider it. For the Chinese tech tree, we have the WZ113GFT. This is one of my favorite assault tank destroyers in the game, and it still is after 2.0. This didn't get touched, however, the tier 9 did. You see, the tier 9 got dispersion and reload time nerf, but also its pen for its premium round went down from 395 heat to 350 heat, which, let's be honest, 350 heat is still more than enough. But when you did have 395 before, it is still a downgrade. But I honestly don't think that's going to change the tank that much. You're still going to have more than enough pen to deal with pretty much everyone you meet, so it's not really too much of an issue. The rest of the line was okay when I played it, and I think that you should probably grind this line, don't skip it. For the BZ75, you might want to skip this. 1, because the tier 11 exists, and 2, because the previous tanks weren't that good when I played them, but they have received buffs. From the stats of the buffs, I can't really see them being much different from what they were, maybe just a little bit better, but overall this line didn't feel great to grind. So you might want to take the BZ75, go ahead and grind it, get the tier 11, and then you have a very nice tier 11 as well. This is actually one of the better ones. Be warned though, the gun will let you down randomly with the BZ75 because it is quite derpy. The WZ115A, I don't think you should skip this. This is a lot like the 277 line. You want to grind this, it will teach you about heavy tanks, and if you don't want to go down the Soviet tech tree, then go ahead, pick a 5A instead of the i7 or 277. For the 121, this tank is a little bit weird because it doesn't really have gun depression, but it does have decent gun stats. You have nice standard rounds, you have nice premium rounds, you have good DPM. The only thing it's lacking is gun depression. The WZ120 did get buffed to now have 5.5 degrees instead of the 3 degrees, so you know, I definitely don't think you should skip this line anymore. I still think that this should be one of the last tanks that you kind of go down, and you should probably ignore it and then go for more competitive tanks. The WZ1321 should just straight up be ignored. You should not go down this line. It is horrible, and even after the buffs, it doesn't affect how the tank plays. The whole playstyle of this tank is that you're meant to be a brawling light tank. You're meant to be like the RHM, but in comparison to the RHM, you have worse aim time, worse accuracy, and less gun depression. It just doesn't really feel good. And that's after the buffs. So no, I don't recommend you grind this. go ahead and get an RHM, or even a Sheridan for that matter, over this thing. We now move on to the Japanese tech tree, starting out with the HoRi 3. This is a really, really good tank, and I don't think the line is too bad in general, especially after a few buffs like the G-Row, which made it more than playable now. This is okay. I don't think you should skip this. The Type 71 can be absolutely great in the right hands, but also I'm not the biggest fan of it. It can feel like a bit of a slug at times in comparison to what you would expect it to be. It's definitely not as mobile as it looks, but still the gun can be really, really nice. It does have that cooldown effect, which I believe is a little bit of a gimmick at times, but still it's absolutely fine to play, and the line is good enough as well. The Type 5 Heavy, this thing got buffed and is probably now well worth going down. The entire line also got buffed. I don't know how good the rest of this line is, but the Type 5 is very good now. Should you skip it? Maybe. It might be worth going and getting a Type 5 Heavy from the go. The SDB1, do not skip this line. This line is very, very good, and it will teach you about medium tanks as well. Also, the Chi-Ri exists, which is a lovely, lovely tank. Does he still have his autoloader? Yes, he does. Good little Chi-Ri. For the Czechoslovakian tech tree, we have the VZ55, which also received a buff. Not to the double gun, though, to the single gun. This used to have 490 alpha, this now has 530. This also now has more premium pen at 315. So this might not be too bad to play. Although the entire purpose of this line was to have a double gun, and that was the fun factor of it. Without it, it's not as fun, and you might as well just go and get like a 277 or something. But I don't think that you should skip it. You should skip on something else. The TVP, very, very good tank. The VTU got changed massively. This now has a 3-round autoloader, which matches what the Skoda T50 does have, where it's another 3-round autoloader, which means that this line makes sense now as you progress. The T34-100 was never really too much of an issue. Skoda T25, good tank. Then the T34-100, good tank, and then you just keep progressing up until the TVP. I think that this line is perfect to grind. You shouldn't be skipping it. TVP at tier 10, also really good. The Tesak, don't even bother grinding it, but just leave it. Just don't bother. It's still a Tesak. It's got changed, but it didn't really get changed with like a plus or a minus, like no buff or nerf. It kind of just got changed and that was it. The buffs for the Tesak are that it had a longer reload now, it has less shells in the magazine, and it has more damage. So kind of got buffed and nerfed at the same time. It just kind of stayed the same. It was like a nothing buff. But no, don't skip it. Don't grind it. I'll just ignore this tank until one of your very, very last tech trees. For the Polish tech tree, we have the Blyskawica. This is a very, very good vehicle. The line in general takes a little bit of getting used to. You see, from the Kalana onwards, you then have the mechanic of your shells doing less damage over distance, which means that you have to be up close and personal with these vehicles to fully get the capabilities of them. The Zdymka, the Berza, the Govica, all of these are absolutely fine. The Govica is really, really strong at tier 7 in my opinion. Yeah, these ones onwards, you need to learn how to play them. And there's no point skipping this because you should really be learning it at the Kalana, because at least then you can be forgiven a little bit. The 60TP is a solid vehicle, and I think the line in general is also very solid. It's a little bit of a letdown that you don't get the heavy tank until tier 7, but the 60TP in general is an excellent vehicle, even after all the nerfs. Very, very good. It got a buff, so the HE damage now has 0.01 meters extra splash damage. Do with that information whatever you will. But the line is good. I don't recommend that you skip it. Grind this line. It's fine. For the CS63, you might want to skip this vehicle because none of the other tanks actually get the ability the CS does. So that means that you have to get to tier 10 to actually utilize the ability, which is the turbo mode and then the normal mode. But it is not the easiest tank to play. This is one of the most infuriating guns in the game, but also one of the hardest tanks to play because it doesn't really have armor, but then it sometimes does have armor. Not only that, but the line is pretty forgettable. The buggy got nerfed by removing the 300 alpha damage gun, and now it's just kind of whatever. So if you do know what you're doing, the CS is actually a really, really good choice for returning players that are experienced at the game. If you're brand new, steer clear of this one. We now move on to the Swedish tech tree with the Strv 103B. This is a very, very good tank and a good line in general. Do not skip this line. This line is okay to grind and you will probably have a lot more fun than if you just skipped it. It does generally get better with every single tank, apart from the UDES, which when you upgrade to the Strv 103O, it does kind of feel like a downgrade sometimes. But the 103B, fantastic vehicle, and then it moves on to the tier 11, which is just a natural progression from the tier 10. Moving on to the Kranvagn, this got a pen buff, so this is actually quite nice to play now. You now have 310 on the heat rounds, and you do have 265 standard pen, which is pretty good. The rest of the line is okay, but you don't get the heavy tank until tier 8. Potentially, you might want to skip this. The Emil 2 can be pretty fun. The Emil 1 is just a letdown, if I'm honest. It doesn't have enough armor to really be reliable in the role that it it's meant to be, but the Kranvagn at tier 10 is good. The UDES 1516, I suggest that you just grind this line, because the UDES is a bit like some other tanks in these tech trees, where you either love it or you hate it. It is a nice natural progression from each one. You then go into the UDES 14.5, which is fine. The gun is okay. You don't really have the armor that the UDES 16 and the UDES 1516 have, but it is teaching you with that playstyle. The one thing that I really don't like about this tank is that it has siege mode, much like the other tanks, the STB. Lots of people do like that about it. So I don't think you should skip this. I think you should grind it and then work out if you like it, because there's nothing worse than using a skip and then you get a tank that you don't enjoy. And then finally we move on to the Italian tech tree, starting out with the Minotauro. The tank itself, really, really good, still very strong. It's not unpennable anymore like it used to be, but it is still a very, very good tank. The rest of the tech tree did receive a few buffs, I believe, but these tanks were already okay. I don't know whether or not they got buffed from like the stock configuration, etc., so keep that in mind. But it should be a little bit nicer to grind in general. But I don't feel like you should skip this line because it does teach you about the tier 10 you're going to get. The Rinoceronte, do not skip this, do not grind this, just ignore it. You should just ignore that it exists because it is a horrible tank. And the tech tree is not really any better. It didn't even get buffed. Honestly, a letdown. They could have buffed this and made this actually okay in 2.0, but it's still not been buffed. So I'll just avoid this completely. And finally, Progetto 65, this actually got buffed in 2.0. Hallelujah. I never thought we'd see the day where Wargaming finally buffs a Progetto 65 again, rather than just nerfing it into the floor. But the day has finally come, and we did get a dispersion decrease, which affects the bloom levels. Now, I have not played it since then, but hopefully that makes it playable, and we can now start enjoying the Progetto 65 again. However, the Standard B did not receive the same treatment, so the Standard B is still going to be not that great, at least regarding bloom levels. But I don't think you should skip this line because the grind should be okay, especially considering that the Pantera also got buffed in this. You should be absolutely fine. The only one that you might struggle with is the Standard B, but you'll get through it eventually. I don't think it's worth skipping an entire line just because one tank is bad. Anyway, that has been it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it's answered any questions you have. Leave comments down below with what you think, and I'll see you all in the next one.